latest film from Taylor Sheridan, Those Who Wish Me Dead, dropped on HBO Max and in theaters this past weekend. It stars Angelina Jolie, so let's talk about it. Angelina Jolie plays a forest firefighter dealing with grief and regret who must help a boy survive. Over the last several years, Taylor Sheridan has made a name for himself as the screenwriter of Sicario, Hell or High Water, and the writer and director of Wind River, several of those having been nominated for a bunch of awards, including Academy Awards. So naturally, when there was a new film coming out from him that he was writing and directing that has a cast as stacked as this movie, I was naturally very interested. But did it live up to all the hype? Let me know down below in the comment section, what did you think about Those Who Wish Me Dead? With that said, let's get started with the good. And right off the bat, you have an all-star cast. You've either got A-listers or rock-solid character actors filling out all of the roles in the film. And along those same lines, while it's marketed as an Angelina Jolie vehicle, it's much more of an ensemble film. All of the characters get a lot of time. You even spend a lot of time with the assassin characters, with John Bernthal and his family. So it's not really focused just on Angelina Jolie. Everybody gets a bit of time to kind of flesh out their story, their backstory, let you kind of know where they're coming from and how they tie into everything that's taking place in this story. Along those same lines, it's very efficient, to the point as this thriller. It doesn't have a bunch of extra subplots that don't tie in. It doesn't waste time. It knows it's there to kind of put you in the middle of this dangerous situation where the stakes keep escalating, and so you just feel in it from beginning to end. Very early on, it establishes the danger, the urgency, and then from there, it just kind of ratchets up the tension, adds new layers to the danger as a forest fire gets involved, while there's kind of these assassin characters and other things kind of happening that just makes this a dangerous space to be in. And as an audience member, you feel all of that as it's happening. And the final thing I want to talk about on the positive here is that I just like movies like this. I like throwback, straightforward action thrillers where you have someone trying to survive, clear good guys, bad guys. It reminds me of so many movies that I watched back in the 1990s when I was growing up. And so it's just one of those concepts brought to the big screen by a very talented writer and director, as well as a great cast in front of the camera. So just a solidly made film in general. But it's not a great film, so let's move on to the bad. And the big thing here is, given how much talent is in front of and behind the camera, it just feels too familiar. Like, I appreciate a good throwback action thriller, just given Taylor Sheridan's track record and how he did kind of some familiar type stories before, but they had extra layers to them. They had more depth to them, and it feels like here it's just another story about a fallen hero dealing with grief and regret and failure who crosses paths with someone that they need to keep alive and kind of breaks them out of their state of mind. We've seen that before, and I don't feel like this movie added anything new to it. It's done well, it's professionally done, but it feels like a lot of movies that we've seen before. Along those same lines, just felt like there were some lapses and holes in the logic that, given how straightforward the plot is, there's not an excuse to have so many questions raised in your mind where you're like, why didn't the kid's dad call this person or do this? Or there's all these other things they could have done besides going on this long journey to where they go. And even the nature by which the people chasing them are able to get where they're at and always be able to find them in a very large country strains quite a bit of credibility. There's just a lot of logic like that. Even some of it's pointed out in the movie of like, why were only these two people sent? That's pointed out inside the movie, and it just kind of goes along with it. Another one, and this is maybe mildly a spoiler, but like Angelina Jolie gets struck by lightning twice in the movie. Or she's in a place that gets struck by lightning and avoids getting hit, and then she gets hit a second time. And when you're watching a movie, you're like, how many times is she gonna get struck by lightning in this movie? That just seems like to strain too much credibility of like trying to ratchet up the tension and danger by doing something that's used as an example of something that's of normally a very rare occasion, and it happens to her twice in 24 hours. It just points to the fact, like, it pulls you out of the story because you're like, wait, what just happened? And like I mentioned, it has an all-star cast, and it does kind of spend time with all the characters, but it also feels a lot like these actors are overqualified for these parts. In particular, Nicholas Hoult, where given the sorts of roles he's been getting over the last decade, I don't know why he would pick this particular role as, you know, henchman number 2. I don't even know what the character's name was. Like, he's just a random henchman guy, and he's just so overqualified to be playing a role like that. But even, I mean, the other guy from Game of Thrones, likewise, overqualified to be playing like such a straightforward villain type role. It was kind of a bit odd to me. So just in general, a movie that I like these kinds of movies. So I enjoyed it. I had fun with it. But there's better movies like this out there. Real quick, before I give you my final thoughts on this one, be sure to join me down below in the comment section. Let me know what you thought. Seems like people are kind of all over the place on this one. I've had a number of people messaging me saying this is their favorite movie of the year thus far, and a bunch of other people declaring it like the most forgettable film of the entire year. So people are kind of interacting with it differently. I'd love to hear your take on it. Is there anything I should rethink about this movie? Let me know down below in the comments section. In general, I had a good enough time watching this movie, but it's not one that stands out to me. It didn't make big, gigantic, glaring problems, but it didn't do anything to really stand out either, which is frustrating given how much talent was in front of and behind the camera. But like, I can't say I didn't enjoy it. Overall, I'm gonna give this one a B- on the entertainment scale. Let's go with a 6.5. And if you have HBO Max and like this type of movie, it's worth streaming, but you probably don't need to go out to a theater and pay $15 to watch this one. Let me know what you thought down below in the comments section, and keep talking movies too much.